Okay, recording is on now. So under the objects, we need to see some utility classes, or you can say built-in classes that we will see. And another dimension of JavaScript is object-oriented programming, classes and objects. This also we need to see, right? Utility classes, classes and objects we need to see under this thing. So first we will cover the classes and objects. So whatever we are going to see now, that is the feature of ES6, right? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So whatever we are going to see now, that would be the feature of ES6. Now in here I can say cls01.js. Okay. Classes and objects. If you remember at the time of objects, I have told you object can be created in this way. Object can be created in this way. Now can you see? Constructor functions or the classes. Object can be created by using constructor functions.
Yes.
Objects can be created by using constructor functions. This part we have seen in detail, right?
Yes.
But we didn't see what do you mean by classes yet. So we have seen object literal notations, this thing.
Yes.
We have seen constructor okay, here itself we will write it. Here itself we will write some example. So function and function say mobile. So this is a constructor function, right?
Yes.
This is the constructor function, and here we can say const mob is equals to new mobile, constructor function. So here we can say constructor function, because we already have seen, now you know what is a constructor function.
Yes, sir.
Constructor function, below is what? Constructor function, and here this is the object. This guy is also object using new keyword. So this is object, right? Person is object. So this is the constructor function, and by means of this constructor function you created an object. We have seen you can create the object in different ways. You can create the object in literal notation. You can create object in using constructor functions.
Function.
Let's add a third point itself. Constructor function, and here we can say what? Classes. So this is the object. So let's remove this. Classes. So you can create the object by means of literal notation, constructor functions, and the classes. This is what we are going to see now, and this is coming from ES6 and above. ES6 and above, right? So
Yes.
we created the constructor function, then we seen what is the prototype, correct? So here we created the object. Now how do you create object? By means of class. That's what we will see in this session, right? So do not forget, in a JavaScript you create object like this, you create object like this. Now third way, which has given to you by ES6, is a class keyword. Class mobile. Class mobile. Class mobile. So this is a very similar to this constructor function. Very similar to the constructor function. So in a mobile, what I want now, if I want to have some Can you see now there is a keyword called as constructor over here, and here I can say this dot number, mobile number is 12345, and this dot country, CC means country code, IN, right? And here let's do first thing, const mob is equals to new mobile, and console.log mob.cc, can you see accessible, mob.number, that is also accessible. So let's clear it, and node, can you see here in, it is printing this in, and it is printing this mobile number.
Yes.
So this is a third way of creating object. First you will create the class, then you will create the object. Now whenever you talk about this approach, remember that this approach specifically given to you by whom? ES6. So how you can write this code before ES6 then? If you get that question, so here we can say cls-02.js. So same thing can be done before ES6 by means of constructor function. How? Function mobile. Now if you want to take parameters from the user, you can take num and cc from here. So instead of giving a static values, you can say what? Num cc, and here you num and cc, and from here, from this guy, you can pass num 123 cc in. More dynamic approach, right? So in the constructor function, how you can do this dot name or this dot num. So here we can take num cc num, right? And this dot cc is equals to cc. Now see why this approach is beneficial. So here I can say call, I want to write, don't say call, or here we can say instead of call, dial. I want to dial from my mobile. So can you see the function would be written in this way over here. How do you write function? In this way. And here how do you write function? Mobile prototype dot dial, mobile dot prototype dot dial. So whatever you have done here, so this and this line is exactly same. Now here how do you create the object? Const mob is equals to new mobile and 123 and tt, like this. Correct? Now when you see this approach is coming from ES6. This approach is coming from what? ES6. This approach pre-ES6. But meaning would be same. But meaning would be what? Same. Remember that this, now just close it. This is the function definition. This is the class definition. We already have talked about the function definition, right? So let me close this thing. Now if you see class mobile, so constructor is that function. It's a kind of function. Can you see it's a keyword technically. all the keywords are in a green one. Can you see this? Sorry, blue one, sky blue one, right? So class mobile, constructor, and the dial. So you can consider the constructor you can consider a constructor is a function, a special kind of function, right, which is used when you talk about the constructor is a special kind of function which is used to initialize the state, which is used to initialize what? State. State. This is a state and this is a behavior. State and behavior, when you talk about the object oriented principle, no matter in a constructor function way and this thing. So what do you mean by this state? Every class would be having some data with it. Every class should have some data. So mobile is representing number and the country code. When you say mobile, what exactly you mean to say? You mean to say number and you mean to say country code, right? When you say mobile, you mean to say its number and this state. Sorry, and the country code. So state is also called as data, or you can say field or property in coding terms. State is a general term. State, when you say state, these variables are called as state. State is also called as field, state, or it is called as property. So behaviors are called as class functions or methods. Class functions or methods. So class functions or methods, so they can use the state. So here we can say console.log and dialing from which country? This dot cc, dialing from this country, dialing from this country, cc. Constructor, dial, a new keyword over here, new keyword over here. Mobile, can you see? New keyword, you have written something called as mobile, given the data, and you have done something called as this. So this class keyword is new for you, constructor keyword is new for you, new keyword is not new for you. We already have seen at the time of constructor functions. Class, constructor, this is not new for you, this is same. Dial is any function number, but if you see over here, there is no function keyword before, dial. So here I can write note, there is no function keyword. There is no function keyword before dial. There is no function keyword before dial, right? This keyword we didn't use it. So in the classes, when you create the functions, it is not necessary to use the function keyword. In a classes, if you are in a class, it is not necessary to use the function keyword before these things. So this thing is called as state, this thing is called as behavior. Behavior means what? The functions. And this thing is called as state. So state is defined in this way. So every class would be having some details. Mobile would be having its number. Mobile would be having its number, right? And the country code. Mobile would be having its number and the country code. So whenever you say mobile, you need these two things, num and cc. You need these two things. So whenever you say mobile, you represent number and the country code. Also operations which are performed on the state is also part of mobile. So internally number you have, cc you have, right? And the operations that would be getting performed on the state, and the operations that would be getting performed on the state. So dial is one of the operation, or disconnect is another operation. Dial is one operation, disconnect is another operation. Dial is one operation, disconnect is another operation. Correct? So when you talk about mobile, we are going to see this thing in detail tomorrow also. When you talk about mobile, you are talking about state and the behavior. State and what? Behavior. Now what is the constructor? Constructor is that function, it's a special function whose name is constructor. When you say mobile, it would be having one constructor. What is constructor? Constructor is a special type of function inside which you define the state variables. Inside which you define what? State variables. And at the time of object creation, can you see new plus name of the class? Can you see this is the name of the class? Now name of the class, so when you do this much thing, when you do this much thing, automatically this constructor function gets invoked. So when you write name of the class and pass these two parameters, this constructor gets invoked. So this is and that's why it's a special type of function. So constructor is a special type of function which would be getting invoked at the time of object creation. At the time of what? Object creation. So when you are creating object, new plus constructor. So whenever you say mobile and whatever data you are passing over here, so this is the constructor. So whenever you do this thing, this constructor would be getting invoked automatically, and that's why it is called as special function, right? So constructor, now we have discussed what is constructor. Now why do you need constructor? So at the time of object creation, for initializing the state variables, can you see initializing 1 to 3, this becomes 1 to 3, in, this cc becomes in. At the time of object creation, you want to initialize the state. You want to initialize these two variables, some value you need to provide to these two variables. You need what? Constructor. Simple. Why do you need constructor? We need constructor to initialize the state at the time of object creation. Right? You need the constructor to initialize the state at the time of object creation. Any questions? Okay, what is the new keyword? Memory allocation operator. What is the new keyword? So when you talk about the new keyword, it is used to allocate the memory. Right. So when you say new keyword, it is used to initialize the memory, but not directly like C++ and Java. It is related to, when you say a new keyword is related to the object instantiation, memory allocation and management, memory allocation and management are tasks handled by underlying JavaScript engine. So you don't need to worry about that part. But internally, memory related things happens in the new keyword, right? So if you check our documentation, related to the new, we have written somewhere, right? Where we have written related to new, we have written somewhere getter, setter, new keyword. Yeah, see, in the JavaScript, new keyword is used to create the instance of a user defined object or one of the built-in object that has a constructor function. So this we have written for the constructor function. When used with the constructor function, new perform following state. It creates the empty object. It sets the proto, right? Binds the this keyword with the newly created objects and implicitly return the newly created objects unless the constructor function explicitly return another object, right? So this new use of new we have seen in the case of the constructor functions. So tomorrow we will see same thing with what? Class. How new keyword works with the class. So first and foremost thing tomorrow we will do, we will create a documentation for this, very important thing. So once we document it, it becomes permanent in your head, right? Class mobile, dial, disconnect, each and every word we will see over here. But remember that no matter you are in a constructor function or in the classes and object, new keyword internally allocates the memory and primarily does those pointers that are mentioned in the constructor function, right? Few pointers. So what it does, it creates the empty object, sets the this context, calls the class constructor and returns newly created object. So it creates the empty object, it gives you this, it assigns value to this. Who is this exactly? It assigns this value, right? It calls this constructor function. And returns newly created object to the MOB. So this is what new does. So we have seen what is a class keyword, similar to the constructor function. Then we talked about what is a constructor. What do you mean by state? What do you mean by behavior? What do you mean by behavior? And what do you mean by this one object? Now, so if you see this object, mob dot dial, you can directly call the function mob dot disconnect. So when you talk about the object, so this, whatever this line is, you may refer this thing to as object. So object can give you access to the state variables like this. Also, object can give you access to the behavior. Behaviors are nothing but the methods. States is nothing but the field or the property.
Property.
Property is a familiar keyword to you, right? Word to you, because in object literal notations also we call it as a property.
Property.
So same thing. CC is the property. Just syntax is different. But the way classes and objects are used over here, this is similar to the C++ or the Java. In the same fashion, we define the classes in a C++ or in a Java. Right? So more details about this we will see tomorrow. Just intro, we have started with the classes and object. We will complete the classes and object, and then we will see next things.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's it for the day.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm stopping the recording.
Yes, sir.